The school bell. For some, it's a welcome sound, a symphony of freedom. For others, it's a siren's call, warning of something sinister lurking just beyond the light. School is supposed to be a place of safety, a space to grow, laugh, and learn. But what if the building itself remembers something, or someone? In these three true horror stories, schools become breeding grounds for shadows and secrets. Viewer discretion is advised. 2014. Chicago. Summer break. The city buzzed with life outside, but inside Northside High time seemed to stand still. The halls of Northside High stood empty, thick with the silence of forgotten lessons. Sunlight filtered through dusty windows, casting long shadows across the linoleum floors. No students, no teachers, just Frank, the janitor, making his rounds. He moved quietly, his footsteps echoing in the vast emptiness. Frank knew every creak and groan of the building. After years of working here, the school felt almost like a second home, one he thought held no secrets from him. So when the motion sensor alarm kept going off in the same room, he felt a chill. It was a subtle warning, a disturbance in the routine he trusted. Room 214 had been locked all summer for renovations. No one was supposed to be in there. The key sat untouched in the main office. Frank checked the door. Locked. He peered through the dusty window. Empty. The desks were covered in sheets, the air heavy with the scent of old chalk and paint. He blamed faulty wiring, but the alarm persisted, the red light blinking like a malevolent eye. Each night the same alert, the same uneasy feeling. Finally, Frank checked the security footage. He hoped for a simple explanation. A mouse maybe, or a draft. The cameras were old but clear enough. The grainy footage flickered, showing the hallway outside room 214. On the screen, the locked door to room 214 swung open by itself. The handle turned slowly, as if guided by invisible hands. No forced entry, no broken glass, no one in sight. The hallway remained still, yet the door moved as if obeying a silent command. Then, a swirling mass of static and shadow formed in the doorway, coalescing into a faint figure. Its outline shimmered, barely visible, but unmistakably human. It lingered, then retreated into the darkness. The door closed behind it, as if nothing had happened at all. Frank felt a terror he'd never known. His hands trembled as he rewound the tape, hoping he'd imagined it. This wasn't a prank. It was something else. Something that defied explanation. Word spread quickly. Teachers whispered. Students exchanged nervous glances. And the room became a place of dread. Even the bravest avoided it, their curiosity overshadowed by fear. Some called it a hoax, a trick of the light. They laughed it off in the daylight, but their voices dropped to whispers after dark. But others felt the chill, the sense of unseen eyes watching from the shadows. The air around room 214 seemed colder, heavier, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Room 214 held a secret, a darkness that lingered long after the last bell. Its story became legend, passed down in hushed tones between classes. To this day, the room remains locked, sealed off from the rest of the school. No one dares to enter, and the key is kept hidden away. A silent testament to the unseen forces that may lurk closer than we think. In Northside High, some doors are better left unopened. In the misty heart of Oregon, Northwood High stood quietly among rolling hills and whispering pines, its brick walls weathered by decades of rain and secrets. The school was a landmark for the small town, a place where generations of students had come and gone, each leaving behind their own stories. The choir room, tucked away at the end of a long, echoing hallway, was a relic from the 60s. Its thick acoustic tiles absorbed not just sound, but also the laughter, tears, and secrets of countless students who had passed through its doors. The faded music posters and battered piano hinted at a time when the room was alive with song. For Emily, a senior with a golden voice and dreams of Broadway, the choir room was more than just a classroom. It was her sanctuary, a place where she could escape the pressures of school and home and lose herself in music. But even havens have their shadows, and the choir room was no exception. Its corners seemed to hold on to the darkness just a little too long after the sunset. During a late-night rehearsal, as the last notes of her song faded, Emily felt it. A presence, a sudden coldness wrapping around her shoulders like an icy shawl. She tried to dismiss it as a draft from the old windows, but then came the whispers, soft, sibilant murmurs that seemed to seep from the very walls, impossible to understand yet impossible to ignore. One evening as she practiced a particularly haunting melody, the whispers intensified, swirling around her like a ghostly chorus, their voices rising and falling in time with her own. Panic welled in her chest, her breath quickening as the room seemed to close in around her. As she reached the crescendo, a blood-curdling scream ripped through the room, not her own but something far older and more desperate. A music stand toppled to the floor, the sharp clang echoing as sheet music scattered like leaves in a storm, each page fluttering with invisible energy. Emily spun around, heart pounding, searching for the source of the scream, but she was alone, utterly, terrifyingly alone. The whispers vanished as suddenly as they had come, leaving only a heavy, unnatural silence that pressed against her ears. She fled the room, the memory of the scream echoing in her ears, her footsteps pounding down the empty hallway. Friends and teachers dismissed her story as exhaustion, a product of too many late nights and too much stress. They laughed it off, telling her she needed rest. But Emily knew the truth. The choir room was haunted, and she was not the first to sense it. The whispers grew bolder with each passing day, mocking her, taunting her, their voices weaving through her thoughts even outside the music room. Her sanctuary became a prison of fear, the place she once loved now a source of dread and sleepless nights. She stopped attending rehearsals, her dreams replaced by nightmares of shadowy figures and echoing voices that refused to let her rest. Even years later, the memory of those whispers sends shivers down her spine, a chilling reminder of what she experienced in that room. The school eventually closed, the building left to decay, a silent monument to the unseen forces that lingered within its walls, waiting for someone new to listen. And somewhere, in that forgotten choir room, the whispers remain, patient and persistent, waiting for the next soul to hear their chilling melody and add another verse to their endless song. Westview High, a labyrinth of brick and linoleum, held its share of secrets. The building itself seemed to breathe with the memories of generations past, its walls echoing with laughter, whispers, and the occasional rumor that refused to die. None more unsettling than the mystery of the Sea Wing, a place that students spoke of only in hushed tones, as if afraid the walls themselves might be listening. A new rule had appeared almost overnight: no one allowed in the Sea Wing after 5 o'clock. The announcement was abrupt, and the reason behind it was never shared. No explanation, just a stern warning from teachers and the principal, their eyes darting away whenever students asked questions. Jason, a freshman with a knack for curiosity, couldn't help but wonder what was really going on. The Forbidden Sea Wing called to him, its doors like a challenge, daring him to uncover its secrets. One afternoon, as the final bell rang and students poured out into the fading daylight, Jason lingered behind, his heart pounding with anticipation. He watched as the school emptied, the noise fading to silence, then made his way to the Sea Wing, each step echoing in the deserted halls. The door was propped open with a rusty fire extinguisher, as if someone, or something, wanted to make sure it stayed ajar. He stepped inside. The air grew colder, shadows deepened, and the familiar school suddenly felt alien and unwelcoming. Lockers stood open and empty, their doors creaking softly as if disturbed by a breeze that Jason couldn't feel. The hallway was eerily silent, every sound amplified by the emptiness. Jason felt unseen eyes watching him, a prickling sensation crawling up his neck. He hesitated, glancing over his shoulder, but saw nothing but shadows. Then he heard it, a slow, rhythmic tapping, like a cane striking linoleum, from the far end of the hallway. The sound was deliberate, echoing off the walls, growing louder with each beat. He froze, breath caught in his throat, every muscle tensed as fear rooted him to the spot. The tapping grew closer, steady and measured, accompanied now by the faintest whisper of footsteps. Jason's mind raced for explanations. Maybe a janitor, maybe a prank, but deep down, he knew the truth. He was not alone in the C wing. Panic took over. He turned and ran, the sound of the cane following close behind, relentless and unyielding. He burst through the door into the main building, the tapping abruptly ceasing as if it had never existed. He didn't stop running until he reached the exit, the cool evening air washing over him, his heart still pounding in his chest. Jason never spoke of what happened in the C wing. The memory haunted him, a secret he carried alone, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister lurked within those walls, waiting for the next curious soul to wander in after hours. The C wing remained off limits, a silent warning to all who passed by, its doors locked tight as night fell. And Jason, forever changed, carried the weight of that knowledge. A chilling reminder that some secrets are best left buried, and some mysteries are never meant to be solved. As the sun sets on another school day, we're left to confront the reality that some places hold on to memories long after the lights go out. Maybe some memories refuse to fade, lurking behind locked doors and echoing in silent hallways. If you've ever felt something watching you at school, you might not have imagined it. Subscribe to Unhinged Nightmares for more terrifying true stories every night. And remember, just because the bell rings doesn't mean you're alone.